The winter wind howled like a starving wolf, battering the stone walls of Punari Castle, deep in the heart of Wallachia. The year was 1459, a time when the air was always thick with tension, and the name of the ruler, the voivode, was whispered, only in fear. On the castle balcony stood Lady Katerina, a noblewoman whose beauty was as sharp as the ice of the Carpathian mountains. She did not wear the laced silk gowns favoured by the ladies of Paris or London. Instead, she was draped in a thick wolf pelt cloak. By her side, grunting softly against the biting cold, was Morgan, a massive boar with long, battle-scarred tusks. Morgan was no mere livestock. He was Katerina's fierce protector, rescued from a hunter's trap many years ago. The boar's resilience was a reflection of Katerina herself, wild, fiercely protective, and bowing to no one. Katerina stared down the snow-covered path below the hill. Today, an envoy from the west was scheduled to arrive. A political marriage had been arranged by the voivode to secure the borders, and Katerina was nothing but a pawn in this bloody game. The crunch of horse hooves broke the white silence. The small entourage was led by Sir Tristan, a knight and diplomat from England, who had travelled from Constantinople to the heart of Eastern Europe. Tristan was a man with a smile far too calm for such a dangerous land. He had a strong, chiseled jawline and eyes that held the sharp intelligence of a survivor. Yet what made Katerina furrow her brow was not Tristan's weaponry, but the small creature perched comfortably on the knight's shoulder. It was a brown macaque monkey, wearing a tiny red velvet vest. Tristan dismounted, looking up at Katerina as she stood in the doorway with her monstrous boar. "Lady Katerina," Tristan called out, his voice deep yet warm, a striking contrast to the bitter Carpathian wind. "I am Tristan, and this is Peter," he added, gesturing to the monkey on his shoulder. "He is a bit mischievous, but I assure you, his manners are better than most nobles I know." Katerina did not smile. Morgan, the boar, let out a loud, aggressive snort. He scraped his hooves against the frozen earth. Peter the monkey shrieked in surprise, leaping up to take refuge on a stone gargoyle above the door. "In Wallachia, we do not keep jesters for pets, Sir Tristan. We keep survivors," Katerina hissed sharply. "Come inside before your blood freezes. We have much to discuss regarding this ridiculous arrangement." For weeks, the tension between the two was palpable, felt by everyone within the castle walls. They were two clashing elements. Katerina despised Tristan's Western optimism and courtly manners, believing him far too fragile for her brutal homeland. Tristan, on the other hand, was entirely captivated by Katerina. He saw past her icy defences. He saw a leader who would sacrifice everything for the safety of her people. One evening, before the grand hearth, that rigid ice finally began to melt. Katerina was oiling her broadsword when Tristan took a seat across from her. In the corner of the room, a strange sight unfolded. Peter the monkey, who was usually terrified of Morgan, slowly extended a red apple, stolen from the kitchens, toward the sleeping boar's snout. Morgan opened one eye, grunted softly, and took the apple, carefully avoiding Peter's small hand. Tristan chuckled softly. "You see, even a monster from the woods and a little thief from Constantinople can learn to tolerate one another." Katerina paused her work, her eyes locking onto Tristan's. "Are you calling me a monster, Sir Tristan?" I am calling you someone who has forgotten what it feels like to be safe, Katerina. Tristan replied gently, leaning forward. You built a wall of ice because your country demanded it. But you don't have to fight your wars alone anymore. For the first time, Katerina had no sharp retort. There was something in Tristan's gaze that made the fortress around her heart begin to crumble. Their budding romance, however, was brutally interrupted by treason. A rebel faction within Wallachia sought to destroy this Western alliance at any cost. The next day, as Katerina and Tristan inspected a village border near the edge of the pine forest, a band of mercenaries ambushed them from the snow-laden trees. Arrows hissed through the freezing air. Tristan drew his sword in a flash, pulling Katerina behind the cover of a fallen tree trunk. How many? Tristan shouted over the ringing of steel. Too many for a nobleman like you. Katerina fired back, unsheathing her dagger. The skirmish was vicious. Tristan fought not like a soft diplomat, but like a demon of war. His blade parried and slashed with deadly precision, keeping Katerina shielded. But they were vastly outnumbered. One of the assassins slipped past their guard, raising his blade to stab Tristan from behind. Suddenly, a ferocious squeal tore through the forest. Morgan! The giant boar charged out of the brush like a cannonball, ramming the assassin and sending him flying through the air. At the exact same moment, Peter the monkey swung wildly from the branches above, pelting the archers' faces with heavy stones and packed snow, breaking their deadly focus. Katerina and Tristan seized the chaos to finish off the remaining attackers. When silence finally returned to the woods, they stood panting, their chests heaving. Tristan spun around to look at Katerina. He was wounded. Blood seeped from a deep cut on his arm. But his eyes searched only for her. Are you hurt? Tristan asked in a panic, cupping her face with his uninjured hand. I should be asking you that. You fool, Katerina whispered. Her voice trembled, not from the freezing cold, but from the sheer terror of almost losing him. There, in the middle of a forest stained with blood and snow, Tristan leaned down, and their lips finally met in a kiss born of desperation, relief, and a long-denied, burning passion. They took shelter in an abandoned hunter's cabin before a looming blizzard could swallow them. Inside, bathed in the golden glow of a freshly lit fire, Katerina carefully bandaged the wound on Tristan's arm. The gentleness of her touch was a stark contrast to her fearsome reputation. I underestimated you, Katerina confessed quietly, avoiding his gaze. You proved your worth today. Tristan smiled faintly, wincing slightly at the pain, then reached out to tilt her chin up. I didn't fight to prove myself to your country, Katerina. I fought to make sure you were still in this world tomorrow. That night, the raging blizzard outside could not penetrate the warmth within the cabin. They realized that this political arrangement was no longer just a duty to the state. It was a destiny that bound their souls together. In the corner near the hearth, Morgan slept soundly with heavy snores, while Peter curled up comfortably on top of the boar's warm belly, safe from the winter storm. By the next morning, the storm had passed. The sun rose over the peaks of the Carpathians, painting the endless snow in breathtaking shades of pink and gold. Katerina and Tristan stood side by side in the doorway of the cabin, their hands tightly intertwined. Wallachia was still a harsh and unforgiving land, The shadows of war with greater empires still loomed on the horizon. But as Katerina looked at the knight from the west, standing by her side, she knew. The long winter in her heart was finally over. They would lead this land together, with strength, with honor, and with a love that no blade could ever pierce.